Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes, and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up, and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this.
Hi!
Welcome to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash
And Becky, the guest edition.
Today. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, I'm so excited for you guys. Today we have on the show Christi Clemons Hoffman. She's the host of Real Life Angel Encounters and the Radiate Wellness podcast that brings authors, thought leaders, and other inspirational guests to an international audience. She is also a level 3 QHHT practitioner and a lifelong intuitive, channel, teacher, and coach whose passion is assisting others to see who and what they truly are. Honestly, Christi was just a joy to speak to, wasn't she?
Yeah.
We really spend this episode talking about specifically how you are so in control of your body and your health. You can heal yourself in all the ways that your body speaks to you, and how, most importantly, your disease or illnesses are caused by stored emotions and trauma.
Fascinating. It was such an amazing chat, wasn't it?
We hope you enjoy our conversation with Christi. Hello and welcome to the show, Christi. Christi, hi, it's so lovely to have you here.
It is so lovely to meet you, ladies. I feel like we're old friends.
Oh, I know. We've just had a chat before we press record, and we're just really excited now. It's like, oh, we
can't wait to hear
so
from you, Christi.
Okay, so before we jump in into all the good stuff, Christi, can you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do?
Absolutely. Well, I'm obviously from America, in the middle of the country. And in a nutshell, I do readings, Reiki, and regression. So there's all types of readings that I do: medical intuition, animal communication, spirits and guides, life path, all the things. And then I'm a Reiki master, so I bring the medical intuition and much information into my Reiki sessions. And then I'm also a quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner, as well as clinical hypnosis and introspective. And a big purpose of introspective and quantum healing hypnosis technique are to go to other lifetimes, usually past lifetimes, but we really can't even say that.
No.
Wow.
Right? So that's what I do.
Oh my gosh.
I have 2 podcasts as well, so I do that as well.
Yeah, so very comfortable here. I love that too. Okay. Oh, there's yeah, I know. Like, where do we start? Well, so what we've decided is we really like to talk to you about the kind of the medical intuition side of things today, and also how trauma and emotions are stored in our body. It's so important, isn't it?
It is so important. And I think if we all understood how our emotions really work and what the purpose is of emotions, then we would deal with them more effectively and work to release them rather than storing them in our body, where they can eventually form into dis-ease and illness. This is a topic that just absolutely fascinates me.
Oh, me too. And, I talk about it all the time in my job on a day-to-day basis. We always talk about this on the podcast, don't we?
Yeah.
And since I've kind of become aware of how emotions are stored in your body and how it creates disease and illness, it's just opened up my world in a whole different light. It's so empowering, isn't it? And it helps you to really step out of that kind of victimhood. Why do I always have a bad back? Why is my shoulder always hurting? And it's like, wow, you just step into control, don't you, so much more?
Oh, so much more, because we give ownership to ourselves. We have ownership over our bodies, and we can, yes, doctors are necessary. And if you're having a heart attack, or you cut your arm open, you definitely need to see a doctor. But there's so much that we can do for ourselves, and understanding how we may have contributed. And I don't want to victim blame or anything like that by saying we created these things, but where we, have conditions that are rife for creating these conditions. And so how we can take ownership of our own, take responsibility for our emotions and responsibility for our own energy in creating these things. Even familial or so-called genetic issues, right? These get passed down until somebody finally resolves it within that lineage.
Yes.
And then that healing tends to go back across the line like dominoes fall, right?
I've got a bit of experience with that, Christy. I'd say through mental health. So how that's sort of come down through the family line, and hopefully stopped with my son who got depression, and I'm hoping we've cleared that ancestral trauma, and hopefully, he can be the end of the line there.
Right. Right. Yeah. People talk about, oh, well, diabetes runs in my family. No, what runs in my family is resistance to the sweetness of life.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I think, that makes me think of the kind of the breast cancer gene. There's so much fear around that now, isn't there? But when I started hearing about epigenetics and Bruce Lipton, everything he has to say, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is just an absolute game changer. And I know we have to be very careful because there is so much fear, and with the people that do have that gene, and you can't just go around saying, hey, like, no, don't worry about it, it's fine, it's just it's your emotions, they've been passed down. And we have to be respectful, but I just do really want to help as many people open their minds to this concept, because you've got so much more power than you realize.
It's interesting. It's come up in QHHT sessions. Of course, QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique. And it's come up in some of these sessions. And in fact, many of them, that really our DNA is just a blueprint of the emotions that got passed down. Emotions that had not been dealt with become set in our genetic material and genetic makeup. It's fascinating. It's like, so we think the genetics are what gets passed down, and they are, but that's really just a laundry list of emotions that we need to deal with and put to rest.
Yeah, 100%. And also, like, we have been kind of told that genes can, you have a gene and it just switches on, and you have to just hope that it doesn't, but more than likely it will. And actually, it's not the genes that switch on and off, it's the emotions that you're storing and the stress in your body that will actually cause that gene to react and play up more, and then start manifesting as the disease, isn't it?
And this is how two twins may have the same, they have the same genes. One will express a certain thing and the other will not.
Yes.
According to their mindset, according to how they deal with emotions, according to the insights that they have. Also, how adopted kids can take on illnesses of the family that seem to be genetic or passed down. Of course, my daughter is adopted, and she's taken on some of our family stuff. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? It's just, I just love this topic. So on that note then, so you said you are a medical intuitive. So
Yes.
Can you just explain to us a little bit more about that, what that means, how you see things and what it enables you to do?
So it's interesting because every medical intuitive I've spoken to does things, sees things, interprets things a little bit differently. So it's like, I can't go in and say, you've got a spot on your spleen, although sometimes that does happen, right? So it depends on the client, but many times I'll say, there's something going on with your knee. What is going on with your knee? Right? I see something, or we'll be chatting and they'll mention something with their heart. And I was like, oh, yep, that's what I was seeing. There it is. So I see what the conditions are in the body. And of course, I notice the chakras, and so I can see those and whether they're balanced, imbalanced, or just completely blocked. And so many times I'll see things that you need to be watching out for your shoulder because that's going to be coming up for you. And your guides want you to watch where you're putting your feet because you've got weak ankles. And so it depends. Every client, I interpret things, I see things a bit differently. And they'll say, well, I didn't even tell you about that. How did you know? It's like, well, as soon as you sat down, I saw it.
Yeah.
And you guys
So
were telling me about it.
You're talking to the guides and everything around them as well. Amazing.
Oh, absolutely. And then sometimes the guides will tell me, your mother's side of the family has heart disease in the family. Your dad's side's got diabetes. These are things that you either need to watch out for, or it's like, just because it's in your family, you don't need to watch out for that, because my guides are saying, yes, do all of the logical things, eat well, get exercise, things like that. But you continue the way that you're going, you probably will not have to deal with that in your own lifetime. So it depends. There's just different things that come up for different people, and I see them in different ways according to what their guides are telling me, what my guides are seeing for them. But it's helpful to know. I can usually tell people what they should be eating, what they shouldn't be eating. What they react to, what they don't react to, and even things that might not be picked up on an allergy panel, right? So it might not be an allergy, but it could be something that you're very sensitive to. It's a vast spectrum of the things that will come up in a medical intuition reading, but it's very helpful in terms of Reiki. So that's very helpful. And in terms of a reading. But for quantum healing hypnosis technique, so Tasha, because you know this method, I don't want to bring these up during the interview portion because I don't want to influence or lead a client in any way. I want them to find out for themselves.
What the reasons behind why they have the medical issues. Right. Yeah, of course. And doesn't the higher self, the subconscious, it just it never fails to amaze me, the reasons for it, and they're so literal oftentimes, aren't they?
Yes. Right? And our language, the English language, and I'm sure other languages as well. I speak French too, and this is true of French. But our language tells us she carries the weight of the world on her shoulders. Somebody's a pain in the neck. Yes. In the gut, stabbed in the back.
Yes.
I'm on uneven footing.
Yeah. I love it when you can see where all these expressions come from.
Because intuitively we know these things.
Yeah.
I think we've forgotten though.
Yeah. And we try and overcomplicate things as humans. We really do overcomplicate everything, don't we? And actually it's just so easy and so simple sometimes, but we just think if it's too easy, we're like, oh, that's not going to work. Just don't listen to that.
Oh yeah. So very intuitively, I think we know these things. And we intuitively, we work with our children and our close friends and partners with this as well, because we all have healing energy that we can share. All of us, right? I just happen to be attuned to Usui and Holy Fire Reiki, but everybody's got healing abilities. And we do this, don't we? With our children, we'll rub their back, we'll pat their arm, we'll massage their little temples, and it helps them because we all have this ability and we all have the intuition as well. It's like, oh, I'm having a stomach ache. You know what? I think it's something I ate. And you can usually pinpoint what it was. Or, oh, my stomach is not feeling well, or I got a headache. I think it's the stress that I'm under. And so we do know these things, but yeah, you're right. We discount it, don't we?
Yeah. And also I think we've become heavily reliant on the medical industry as well, haven't we? So though we could say, oh yes, I think my headache's due to stress, there's so much, again, fear around it, isn't there? We're like, oh, I better go to the doctors and check that it's not a brain tumor, or maybe I need some medication. And
we've stopped listening to our own intuition.
Ooh, yeah, we do, don't we?
Yeah,
we discount it.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'll talk to people and say, well, your guides are telling me that this condition is due to such and such, the relationship with your father. No, actually, the doctor told me that it's due to this fall I had. Well, okay. No, let's back up. And this is true even if we have an accident.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
You have a bad fall or you're in a car accident and you could have gotten hurt anywhere, but no, you didn't. Right? You got hurt in a specific place.
Yeah.
And then with COVID or any other type of virus, different people had different expressions of that virus. Of course, COVID is a big example because pretty much everybody's been touched by it. But some people have really bad headaches. Some people had breathing problems. Some people lost their voice. Some people had stomach upset. Some people had brain fog. There's no coincidence why we had these expressions of that virus. And it's just true of any virus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm interested to hear your opinion on this then, Christi. When we understand this, it's then the reason I love it is because you can take it a step further. Like I said, you become empowered, and like you said, you can take ownership of your body. So what could you tell people to do? Like, for instance, if they think, oh, do you know what, I have got like a dodgy shoulder at the moment, what would you say is best for them to do rather than run straight to get some ibuprofen or go to the doctors? What would be good for people to do when they have these kind of things come up?
Okay, first of all, it's really cute the way you say ibuprofen. So.
Thanks.
I love it when British people say aluminium instead of
aluminium.
Out of the way. Adorable. But we can understand these things, and there are so many great resources out there. I wrote a chapter in the book, The Gap, and I can't remember the subtitle of it, but it's called The Gap, and it was an international bestseller on Amazon. And this chapter was about how we can decode our bodies. But there's also Julia Cannon's, Dolores Cannon's daughter. She wrote Soul Speak. And then there's Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. Great resource. But a resource that I absolutely love and use every day is Michael J. Lincoln's Messages from the Body, Their Psychological Meaning.
Ooh, I haven't read that one.
It's a wonderful resource. He goes into each tooth of the body, each joint of the finger, each vertebrae along the spine. He goes into great detail. Is everything in there? No, but it's a very comprehensive thing. So once we understand what part of the body represents what emotion or what trauma is stored where in the body, then we can look at that. So, for example, somebody who's got a dodgy shoulder, and I love that word dodgy. That's so funny. It's very British.
It is.
Shoulder. So if it's the right shoulder or left shoulder that tells us, well, left side tends to be past, tends to be our feminine side, tends to be important females in our life. The right shoulder tends to be, our present and upcoming things, tends to be our masculine side, the important males in our life. So depending on which shoulder that is, where are we taking on responsibility? So has mom recently become infirm or has recently passed or something like that? What are we taking on from that side that it's like, I'm like sorting out all of her medicines. She can do that. Right. And that's a very simple example.
Yeah.
So we can turn to that and start decoding, well, what am I doing or not doing in my life that can help this? Now, can it turn it around overnight or quickly like ibuprofen does?
Ibuprofen.
Probably not, because it's taken X number of months or years for this condition to come up in the body, and it can take that much time to undo the effects of that. But it helps us understand moving forward what we need to adjust in our life. And when we adjust these things in our life, then it can also work to undo it as well, but it could take some time. So for that reason, I'm a very practical type of mystic. That yes, there is a role for ibuprofen, acetaminophen, all of these things, because we're going to be uncoding it, decoding it on the back end. What we hope to do is meet in the middle.
Yes.
Right. So we need both of these to work.
I totally agree with you, because I've said to you before, haven't I? I've always said, we have allopathic regular medication and stuff for a reason. It's come here, like it's been given to us for a reason, hasn't it? But like everything, we seem to get out of balance. And so it's just about using that with the balance of our own intuition and understanding this kind of side of things, the emotional side of things, and think how lucky we are that we do have both, that we can, we can use both healthily in a balanced way. And because I have, I fractured my spine when I was 16 during my dance exam. And it caused a whole load of health issues since I was 16. But it's taught me such a valuable lesson because obviously I've spent a lot of more than half of my life in chronic pain. And when I was 21, they told me that there was nothing they could do for me. I have to just live with the pain. It will probably get worse, and they won't do an operation on me until, the benefits outweigh the costs. And so I went through my life from 21 years old with a belief that as I got older, my back was going to get worse. I was going to get more painful. I could potentially end up in a wheelchair, all of this kind of stuff that I had that I grew up with. And when I realized about all of this, how the emotions and trauma are stored in the body and how it creates, I was like, right, now I am not going to have a bad back anymore. I'm going to heal my back. I can heal my back. I'm going to fix it. And I understood why my back fractured at 16. I understood the emotions, the trauma that happened to me as a child that led to there being a weakness in that area, and why my back was continually hurting me even up until, recently. And as I started using visualization, I obviously changed my belief system. My back started fusing together on its own, which is what the operation, if I was allowed to have it, would have done. So when a few years ago, I went back and I saw a doctor, I had an MRI, and he said, your back's healing. He said, it's very strange, but you're healing yourself. And I was like, yeah, I know that. Funny that. But, again, though, and the reason I say that as well, because it's taught me a lot of lessons all through that. But now I was always careful with medication because I knew that I was going to potentially have to take it for the rest of my life. And, I was more pushed towards that side. But now I will only take medication if I think I'm not a martyr. I don't want to be in pain. Oh. I'm constantly aware of why my back might flare up and the reasons behind it. And, like as a hypnotherapist and a QHHT practitioner, there's secondary gains, isn't there, to having a condition, right? So I'm very aware of them as well. So if my back flares up and I know that it's particularly painful, I will take some medication, but I know that I'm doing that whilst I'm working on the reasons behind why my back's flared up right now.
Exactly. So we have to address both things. If we're only doing the allopathic stuff, we could get some relief, but it probably is not going to be lasting.
No, exactly.
Right? If we only do the emotional stuff, the trauma work, the shadow work, we'll get there, but it could take, how many years to undo it that it did to get there.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating and it's empowering.
That's the most important thing, isn't it? It's really giving you back control of your life and just helping you to feel more in control and more hopeful, because I know that for me it was so powerful to realize that I didn't have to be a victim to my back condition, my disease. And I'm really big on not labeling whatever it is. Don't label yourself, because it becomes an identity, and it's so important to not do that, because then you can become a victim to that label and that identity, can't you?
No, you're absolutely right. Saying I am a diabetic, I am obsessive, right? It's like I was diagnosed with diabetes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That doesn't define me.
No, exactly.
That's interesting about your back injury. Did you listen to Joe Dispenza at all? Oh yeah, because that was his situation, wasn't it?
Yes. He was obviously a lot worse than me, but it was the same thing. And once you hear it enough as well, it is about building that belief up, isn't it? I now realize that you, obviously with the work that I do, you get to choose whatever belief you want to have. And so if I decide I want a belief, I become incessant and with finding everything that will back up that belief. Because
Right,
that's
evidence.
what you do, isn't it?
Wow, that's what, I interviewed this guy 2 times on the Radiate Wellness podcast, Terry McBride. He was a college student working his way through college, doing construction, hurt his back, and then he listened to his doctor, and this was in the 60s, late 60s. His doctor said, well, you need a surgery to correct that. So he did the surgery and then got this horrific infection while in the hospital. And the infection just kept coming back and spreading and coming back and spreading. He had something like 21 different surgeries to debride the infection with open wounds left for months at a time. They told him finally he would never walk. He would always have a colostomy bag. And he never fathered children. And he's like, yeah, that's not going to happen to me. And in fact, he wrote a book about this called The Hell I Can't.
Oh, amazing.
That's something you'd write.
Yeah.
I can do nothing like other people. I can walk, And so he talked in the second interview, especially, that he talked about how he created a new belief. So he was sick in the hospital. Of course, there was just nothing else to do except watch television. And he was in Seattle, and he was watching a local news program, and there was a horrible flu outbreak going on. And the local news were interviewing these moms who never got sick, even though all their families did. So how did you avoid getting sick? And the moms said, well, I just talked to my body and said, you don't have time to get sick. Your kids, your husband, everybody's sick. You don't have time for this. And I told my body that's not going to happen. And he's like, oh, you could do that? And so he started talking to his body, and he said that, we're not going to do this. We're not going to listen to the doctors. We can heal. And then he also talked about how he created a belief around his colon, because the surgeon said, Terry, you have to face reality. You're always going to have a colostomy. You're not going to be whole again. And he's like, okay, let's just say that I wanted to get rid of the colostomy bag. What would happen? It's like, Terry, don't even go there. He's like, okay, let's just humor me. Okay. What would have to happen? The surgeon outlined several things, and he goes, okay, now I have my list of what I need to do. And so first I have to create a healthy environment for my colon. I can do that. And so based on what he had learned from the moms, he's talking to his body, and he thought, okay, I need to visualize a healthy colon. And so he printed out a beautiful, squeaky, clean pink colon from the internet, put it up on the wall, or found it from a medical book. I don't know. Put it up on the wall. And he goes, okay, I have to visualize that. And he thought, wait a minute, Terry, your colon's been through hell. It's not going to look squeaky and pink like that. So he started taking a pencil, and he drew scars and stitches all over it and shaded it. It was functional, but it did not look pretty. It was a Frankencolon. And so, he's like, I can do that. That I can do. And so he started imagining his colon was functional and working. And then sure enough, he healed it. He got rid of the colostomy bag, but he needed that to create this belief. So creating these beliefs sometimes is really hard for people. Right? You cannot go easily, typically, for most people, from I've got this busted back, I'm never going to be pain-free, to my back is perfectly healthy, I am pain-free. That's really hard. That's hard to do. But we can go from, it may be possible that I can heal this myself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We can go from, other people have done this. I'm one of many people. I can maybe do this, right? So we build that belief gradually and gently with what is the most attainable belief that we can achieve. And then once we achieve that next belief, then we can move on to the next belief. Yeah. So for some people, it may not work to go from 0 to 100, but they can go from 0 to 10, and then 10 to 20, then 20 to 30, right?
Yeah.
I loved his message of that.
That's brilliant.
That's incredible, isn't it?
I love that.
You wouldn't believe it, would you, unless you
had
it in front of you. And I guess visualization has a lot to do with how we heal ourselves. That visualization. So that was really helpful, having that picture of the colon there to focus on. So that's a really good idea, isn't it?
Right. And so, same with a back.
Yeah.
It's not going to be perfectly straight, and it's not going to be, every vertebrae is individual. a healthy fat can also be, some of them are fused.
And then that's what I did. Obviously, again, it helps. I went to medical school. I have a good idea of the anatomy of the body, so I would visualize my spine. So I got a spondylolisthesis, which basically means my vertebrae have slipped off, and so I would picture my spine and my vertebrae kind of just slipping, moving back on, like moving backwards and staying still, like fusing. And that's what I would visualize every night before I went to sleep. And then I had it confirmed for me when I had the MRI. And I just, and for me, obviously, I had already formed that belief to be able to get there. But then when you see the actual proof of it, the belief gets even more solidified, and then it pushes you on to think what's possible next, and this is what I love, because you can just continually expand your awareness. The more you do it, the more things are possible, until you get to a point where you just think, well, I can't negate anything now. To me, anything's possible for me, and I just love that. And people think I'm nuts, but I don't care. I'm like, we're superhuman. We are. We just don't believe that we are. And the more that I think, the more people can start believing this. It's also a collective thing, isn't it? Because then it starts spreading out. Like the 4-minute mile, nobody could do that. It wasn't possible. And then one person did it, and then all of a sudden, straight after that, everybody started doing it, because now it's possible because somebody did it.
Oh, somebody did that. That is right. Exactly. Creating that positive belief for yourself. I love that. I don't know if you guys have Unity churches there in England. I know Unity is worldwide.
Well, maybe we do then, just not aware of it.
Yeah, and so this was a movement. It was part of what they call the New Thought movement in the late 1800s of you create your reality. That positive visualization and affirmations can bring about improved benefit in our life. And it started here in Kansas City, the Unity movement. Right, yeah. And I go to a Unity church. And there are many here in the Kansas City area. Anyway, it was started by the Fillmores. Myrtle Fillmore had gotten tuberculosis from her parents. And now there is a tuberculosis outbreak here in Kansas, which is really weird. But anyway, she had tuberculosis, and her doctors said, you're always going to be sickly. And they moved around the country when she got married to try to find better air. But she went to a tent revival and heard this minister talking about how you can heal your body. This is the late 1800s, my friends. Talking about how you can affirm to yourself that you do not inherit illness and you can heal yourself. And so Myrtle took that message and she started praying 8 hours a day and affirming to her body, I am a child of God. I do not inherit illness. And she healed her body of tuberculosis. Her husband, Charles, was like, you're crazy. But when he saw the results, he's like, there might be something to this. He had a sledding accident when he was younger and broken one of his legs, which was always shorter than the other one. And he walked with a noticeable limp. He grew his freaking leg after watching what Myrtle did. Right? So they formed this church that's now worldwide, unity.org. And they formed this church that's worldwide about the effects of positive prayer and affirmation. So, yeah. And the movie in the book, The Secret, right? That was built on the same principle, that it's not really a secret. It's been around forever.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's the worst kept secret ever. I know. I do love it. It just makes me so excited because I love the fact that you can actually, like you mentioned this before, you can talk to your body. The guy you were talking to, he spoke to his body. I talk to my cells. I imagine my cells as like these little beings, and I'm like, "Come on, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing today? We're going to get some really lovely skin. Your skin's going to be glowing." I grew my hair, didn't I? I thickened my hair. Honestly, I was really, really thin around here. My hair was getting thin, and I was like, I don't like this. And I identified that I had a belief that because my mum had very thin hair, that I'm going to get thin hair because my mum's got thin hair, so that was a belief. And also, oh my gosh, well, you can't grow your hair back. I'm thinning. That's it. It's over for me. It's just my genes. And then I was like, no, I don't think I want to believe that. So every morning I would wake up, I'd look in the mirror, and I'd say, my hair is long, luscious, thick, and beautiful. That's all I did. Every morning, my hair is long, luscious, thick, and beautiful. And and obviously, you know, it has to be stated that I have been working on my belief system. Like you said, I didn't just go straight from nothing to that. I've been working on my belief system. I live and breathe this. I do it every day in my work. You know, it's taken me time, but I had an absolute belief that I can talk to my cells, I can talk to my body, I can talk to my hair. My subconscious is paying attention. It makes me breathe. It makes me blink. It grows my hair without me having to do anything. It can absolutely do this. And I had that belief. And within, well, it was weeks, wasn't it?
Oh, it was
I was like, look at my baby hair. Look, it's all coming. And my hair's just got so much thicker. And I know that sounds silly, and it's a very, it's like, you know, a seemingly shallow kind of example, but you have to do it with small things like this first, don't you? Because then it builds up the belief so that you can start healing your back. You can start healing diabetes or autoimmune disease, particularly autoimmune diseases. Like you can, you know, you can do it. And I'm just so passionate about it, honestly.
And what emotion do you think is the strongest emotion that can cause these diseases, really, would you say?
I think anger.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that.
Did you? Yeah, what do you ladies?
Anger's so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so many people have it, and they actually don't realise they're angry, do they?
No.
I think a lot of the time it's coming out in different ways. So it's like being able to connect back into that, isn't it? And sort of go through that journey. Like you say, it could take years, can't it?
Right. Yeah, that's important to remember that. In fact, Rhonda Burden said this in The Secret, that it's not just like one bad thought or one bad day. It's the pattern. It's the pattern. You know, I think the most, now, this doesn't have to do with anger. This was more fear, and which I think fear is also, right? And, but this woman came up to me at a wellness fair, as a matter of fact, and, you know, she learned about medical intuition and what that is about and how messages are stored in the body. And she said, well, I hope you can help me with something. She says, I've got this eye condition, and that something I can't remember what it was. Something happens with her eyes. And whenever she has this coming on, she has to get right away to a hospital so that they can correct it. She said, but eventually I'm going to lose my vision. And I said, okay, well, let's unpack this. What was going on in your life? And this is what I ask all my clients who are dealing with something. What was going on in your life around the time or before the time that you had the onset of this, right? So I asked her, what was going on in your life when you first started noticing this? And she said, well, my son was getting into a lot of trouble, and he was a teenager. And she said, I am a therapist for adolescents who are at risk. And she said, I saw my son joyriding, petty theft, these type of things. And that was not the vision I had for my son. She literally said, that was not the vision I had for my son. I was like, really, you don't say. And so I told her about, I mean, and of course we were at a fair. There were thousands of people around. We were really busy. It was really loud. And I said, here's my card. I would love to follow up with you. And she never followed up with me. So I don't know if she was able to correct that or look at it, or think about it. But I think that's the most like in your face type of example of how this works. Not everything is like that.
No. But it is surprising how many things are that literal, isn't it? You know, like it will never surprise me with the work in QHHT and in the regular hypnosis, the reason for these things. And like you said, it's not always that simple, but always check first. You always go to the literal reason first and then work back from there.
Right. So for myself, I had frozen shoulder. I had frozen shoulder for about a year. And I was like, what the heck? I know how these things work. Well, what had happened is that there was another fair. It was at my church, as a matter of fact. And I run Radiate Wellness, which is a group of holistic practitioners. And we were going to have a table there. And so that meant I had to haul in a table, plus our banners, plus all of our pamphlets and materials. There were like 3 or 4 heavy bins that I needed to bring into the church. The church was built in the 1920s or 1930s. No elevators, tons of stairs. And I had arranged for one of the other practitioners, a guy, to meet me there and help me unload my car, take it all in. and he didn't show up. He wasn't there on time, and I knew we had to get set up. So I'm loading these things up the stairs, through the building, and going, God damn it. Why am I always the one who has to do this? It always comes down to me. And then my shoulder blew.
Mm.
Gosh darn it, I know better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Rather than being
humans.
humans.
We slip.
Yeah. So that was like the instant karma type thing.
Yeah. But you won't do that again. It's all lessons, isn't it?
No. I am so grateful we have this opportunity to have this show at my church that I absolutely love. It's going to be a big event, and I'm so grateful to be here instead of why am I always the one who has to do this?
Yeah. But like you said, it's like this all helps you understand that you have to be so careful with your words, with the words that you speak as well, isn't it? Because, like I am so careful now. I will never say, oh, this is killing me. I won't say it and that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But I'm like, oof, no, they're spells, aren't they? You are casting spells with your words. And so, like, oh, stop being such a pain in the neck. I just wouldn't say it. Or, I'm trying to think of some other things. Like I'm sure we can all think of things that we say, don't we? Can you think of anything?
Well, we just grow up saying these things, don't we? And you're just like repeating what maybe your parents have grown up saying. Like you say, oh, this is killing me.
Or I can't take this anymore. Something like that. It's just, you just don't say something. I'll always, if I do catch myself saying those kind of things, I'll immediately say, no, this is gonna happen with ease. I'm gonna easily do this, or this is just temporary. I'm always ensuring that the words that I speak are very positive and empowering, because obviously I know that your cells are listening, your subconscious is listening, and they're very well behaved. They will do what you tell them to do.
So funny. That little negative voice in my head, that autopilot voice in my head that you were talking about, Becky. It's like I gave her a name, and that is Bianca. Shut up, Bianca. You're drunk. Go home.
Oh, I love that.
So that is not true.
I love that. It's so much better when you give these things like tangible names and characters, isn't it? Because you can like talk to them like they're different parts of you, which I just think makes it so much easier to separate yourself from it, doesn't it? Like it's helpful, isn't it? It's like, it's not me, it's Bianca.
That's so true.
She's drunk again.
I love that.
I think it's brilliant. But also, I wanted to ask you, because of with your QHHT sessions, I know we were talking about kind of healing, and a lot of the time, it takes a lot of time, and we have to remember that. But I have actually also had some instantaneous healings in my QHHT sessions as well. And I just wanted to ask, like, have you had that, and have you got some examples?
Lots. Yeah. I've had 4 people come in with cancer, and then they leave, they go to the doctor, and the cancer's not there anymore.
That's incredible.
Wow. I have people who walk in and they have a limp. They walk out, they don't have a limp. I had one woman, she had a allergic reaction. Her face was completely red. Her eyes were swollen shut. In fact, we had to move her appointment to the very next day, which I was glad I was able to do that, because she says, I got to get this under control. I can't even open my eyes. My boyfriend had to drive me to the doctor. She'd used some sort of cream. Anyway, so she comes in and her face was still red and puffy, and her eyes were very, very swollen. After her session, she was fine.
Wow.
It is crazy. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
Isn't it amazing?
And if
It's amazing.
could only teach everybody this in school, how amazing would it be?
Right. From preschool on.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's why I just love talking about this now, because there are going to be people listening who do have young children, and they can start talking to them in that way, and they're just not going to know any different, are they? They're just going to grow up believing it. Yeah, mum told me that I can heal myself. Like, I don't, I can talk to my cells and tell them that they're going to be healthy, and they don't know any different. They've got nothing to fight against. We have to undo all this programming, don't we? But oh gosh, the kids, like you can get them young and they're so good at using their imaginations as well, aren't they? So you could really, I mean, gosh, like my children are 16 and 14 now, and I still think it's amazing because I can have such great conversations with them, and I feel so thankful that, you know, they get to have these conversations that we have with our kids that we just absolutely didn't have with you know, with our parents. And it's nobody's fault, it's just, you know, it's growth, isn't it? But yeah, like if I could get, well, I can't wait for grandchildren. I'm like, oh, my grandchildren are gonna they're just gonna know so much. They're gonna grow up and my kids would probably be like, oh mum, stop it, come with me, come on,
away from grandma.
Don't tell mum, let's have a conversation. I just think it's just amazing, isn't it? Like the thought of children growing up understanding like their true power is just amazing, isn't it?
Well, and I taught Sunday school at my church for a long time. And, you know, our principles are God is good and in everything, everywhere. That means I'm good because I'm part of God. God's in me and I'm God. Affirmative prayer and meditation brings out the best in my life. I can't remember the fourth principle. The fifth principle is that I can do this. It's I walk the walk, I talk the talk. But these principles are so important for the children to learn because they understand the importance of our words and how our words have meaning and power. Like you said, they're magic. It's like a spell.
Yeah.
Right. And so the Sunday school kids, like very, very valuable.
That's amazing, isn't it? And do you know what? I really love that it doesn't matter your, you know, whether you're religious, you're not religious, which religion you follow. This just works for everything. You can substitute, can't you? You can say, you know, prayer, or you can say intention setting, or you can say manifesting. It doesn't matter. Like, you make it fit you. It's all the same thing. And it's just that whatever terms that make you feel comfortable, use them, because it's all the same. It's just and I just think that's really powerful.
Like you've said before, it's like empowering them to use what's within them to achieve.
Love that.
Amazing. This is so magical, isn't it?
I know. Oh, I love this. I love this conversation. I wanted to ask, obviously, before we go, Christi, were you always intuitive? Have you been like this since a child, or did it come upon you as an adult?
No, from childhood. My dad told the story of when I was a baby, just babbling in my crib, and he was putting himself through college. My mom was an x-ray tech, so she worked nights. He was a night watchman at this huge WPA era, 1930s era high school here in town. And so he would bring his college books and he would study, and he would bring me and my playpen so he could keep an eye on me while my mom was working. Anyway, overnight at this huge old school building, and he said that I would stand up in my crib and I would just babble to the ghosts around. And one night I said, "Hi, Mr. Man." And he said he quit the next day. But I grew up like that, knowing things that I shouldn't know, seeing things that nobody else did, and nobody understood. I grew up in the suburbs of Kansas City. I went to a upper middle class high school in the suburbs of Kansas City. Nobody was talking. I was the weird kid, and I quickly learned you don't talk about this at school, because I was bullied because of it. I was like, okay, well, we're not talking about that, are we? Right? So shut it down, which we can. Okay, and you were talking about kids, and kids are very naturally open. We're just born that way, but we can learn to shut it down, and I don't ever recommend that. Right? We need to let that ability, be expressed, because if we shut it down, then that energy has to go somewhere, and it will usually go to anxiety and depression, which I had because, which was part of my life then, because I shut that ability down. But then over time, I learned that, no, this is actually a good thing. This is actually a gift that I can use. And so learn to channel it and harness it and work with other people with it.
Oh, that's so amazing, because it must be so difficult when you're a child like that, to just think that you just must assume that everybody sees the world the way you do, and I suppose you get to school and you realize, oh no, the other children don't see the world, like, and then you inherently, then from that time, you then feel different, don't you? Like, oh, I'm different, and then that must stay with you for a little while as well, until you realize, like you did, luckily, thank goodness, yes, I am different, but I'm special because I have a gift, and I'm going to use it to help people.
Yeah.
But
I would say that we all are special. We all have this gift. We really all do. But it's like we all have the gift of being able to sing. From a baby, we can open our mouth and sing, and the sound will come out. Some of us are more naturally gifted right off the bat. And some people can take that gift and they can learn to be better and to be a good singer. Same thing with our intuitive gifts. We all have it. Some of us, are not really great at it because I don't know, for whatever reason, but then we can also learn to develop it and use it and depend on it.
Yes.
So it's the same thing. We all have it, but we can either learn to increase it and channel it and work with it, or we can just let it lay dormant and not believe in it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It's like, we can all learn how to play the piano. We're not all going to be Mozart. And so we obviously, there will be certain intuitive abilities that you might be better at than other people, but we all have intuitive gifts, don't we? But it's just learning what yours is, like what your strength is. And I think I know that from doing the work that, when I started doing the hypnotherapy, I realized that my intuitive strengths were in reading people, and being able to see what's kind of inside their mind, see their trauma, see where their beliefs are. And when I realized that, I was then really able to hone it, because before I was at a point where I was thinking, well, I want to work on doing kind of mediumship, and I want to work on and I want my gifts to be expressed in this way and that way. And it was as soon as I just let go and I just thought, work with what you've got and work on your strengths, then you're like, right, okay, this is easy. I get this. I don't even have to think about it because it's just natural to me. So now I'm just going to work on that. And I think that's what we all need to do. We just need to get in touch with our intuition, not expect it to be like that person there or like that person there, and just appreciate your gifts for what they are, and then strengthen them. And I just think that a lot of people don't realize what their intuitive gifts are, because it is part of them. It's so natural to them, they don't even realize. A bit like you when you're a young child, you just think everybody gets that, or everybody has that gift, because it's just part of you.
Right, absolutely. But we all have it. We have it in varying degrees and in varying gifts. I mean, there's really only 4: clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance, right? But then we have those gifts in varying degrees. Becky, you are very clearly clairsentient. You feel it's the feeling sense that is very strong with you.
I always say that to her. Yeah,
absolutely. So trust your gut feeling. Trust your gut feeling. When you get those truth bumps, work with that. Right? Feel it in your body when something is right, or you might have to wait for that feeling to come in your body, but when it does, that's the time to act. And then Tasha, I know that you were talking about having more of the visual type of things, but they're telling me that your primary gift is claircognizance, is the knowing. So you just know. It's like, I don't know how I know this, but I know this.
And that was when I realized, when I was kind of getting into this, and I thought, what is it? Is it clairsentience, clairaudient, I was like, if I think about back to when I was a child, I used to just know that was what I used to know things, and I used to think, how do I know that? I can't possibly know that. And that's how I started talking myself out of it, because I would think, well, you're just guessing. You can't know that, so you're just guessing. And I would just shut it down. Shh, don't pay attention. It took me a long time to get that back. We got there in the end. Christi, this has just been such an awesome conversation. Honestly, we've had so much fun, and we'd love to have you back. Love to have you back on.
I feel like I'm sitting around with my girlfriends.
Yes. Well, that's what we like. This is our aim of Be Your Best You. We just love it to just feel like we're in the room with people when they're listening. I'm glad you felt that. But I would have loved to have got on to kind of spirit guides and angels. So maybe next time we could talk about that.
I love that. I love that. And could I quick put in a plug for my book?
Please do.
Okay, just really quickly. So I've got a podcast called Real Life Angel Encounters. It's real people telling real stories of their angelic, their spiritual, their mystical, their synchronicities. But it's going to be a book. The first volume of Real Life Angel Encounters will be out in the UK the end of June and the beginning of July in the US. Real life.
Oh, you get it first.
Yeah, you get it first.
That's very cool.
That is cool.
I'm working with a UK publisher.
We'll put all the details in the show notes, and then I'll put where you can find Christi as well, because I know people are going to want to go and have a look at more about what you have to say, because just awesome. Yeah, amazing.
This has been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. It was lovely having you, and we look forward to having you back very, very soon.
Oh, can't wait.
Thank you, Christi. Okay, everybody, we will see you next time. Take care. Bye.